Welcome, my friends. I just did my second interview since arriving in the Middle East, and it was absolutely fantastic. Michelle is a friend of mine. We were able to dive into some subjects that I think are going to be quite illuminating for you, and her story of healing is really quite remarkable. But until we get to that, if you are unaware, I am going to be teaching an absolutely revolutionary course on sacred energy exchange, sex. I'm going to be discussing things like pornography, masturbation, the things that we are normally not comfortable talking about. I want to give you the enlightened perspective, the metaphysical perspective about what is really going on when we engage in sex, what it can be applied for, all the different applications of really the most powerful force that exists. So that is going to be pinned at the top of the comments below. So if you want to learn more about sex and ways and things that you've never heard before, sign up. That class is going to start towards the end of November. But until then, enjoy this great interview that I did with Michelle. I'll see you soon.
When you were in that crisis moment where you were paralyzed, you said something like, this is what total victory looks like in terms of like when you started to go into your self-healing mode. And I thought, wow, I mean, when I got sick, and I was in crisis for such an extended period of time, my self-confidence just completely like vanished. And most people, I feel like that's like a common denominator. Like all of a sudden you're not invincible and you're not the person that can drink all night and you're not the person that can like work all day and then fly to another country and like still be up and running and just exist on espresso. Like you're not suddenly that person that you've known for 20, 30, 40 years. You're an unknown entity. And that is scary. And so I was like stunned. Still am, because I'm still working on it. That kind of self-confidence, that certainty that you can go to another place and truly heal yourself. And I'm just wondering like where that comes from.
Okay, so I would say that confidence is really for personhood. So it's the character, the human character, the ego mind identity, personhood that is seeking, always seeking something, and often seeking confidence, right? Or peace, or healing, or wealth, or that seeking. Okay, so confidence is really for personhood. Knowingness and certainty is the domain of the self. And because we are the self, being ourself doesn't actually require any effort. It's like doing less than nothing,
Mhm.
which the conditioned mind can't grasp that because it's always in motion, because without motion, boredom sets in, and boredom is really the is really the runway for enlightenment. That's what I said. So when we tone everything down and we become very still, right, there's this certainty. There's a level of self-awareness or gnosis. And that's really what I'm talking about. And that's when body mind complex, the suit, is attuned to what we really are. And when we fully align oneself with who and what we really are, that is what self realization is. That is what enlightenment is. That's actually what it is. There's no personhood in the way. There's nowhere lower consciousness that needs to be transcended. There's no character that needs to be healed, right? So it's confidence is for the person. Knowingness is part of who and what we really are. And that's where that certainty comes from. And that's really the key to what I would say is all success. All success comes from our ability to align the body mind complex to who and what we really are and not run programs. Whatever that program is, some sort of belief, some sort of concept, some sort of role, some so called knowledge, whatever it is, right? Once we attune ourselves to who and what we really are, that's the magic. And then all we have to do is just continue to be out of the way. So, in other words, the ego mind identity doesn't keep getting in the way and trying to take the wheel of the incarnation. And so the certainty comes from being who and what we really are. And because we are the self, as I said, it doesn't require any effort, right? It's being yourself. It's like doing less than nothing. And that doing nothing is the death of the ego mind identity, of the character. And therein lies your healing. Because as the ego mind identity, as the character starts to crumble and fall apart, so does its story of ill health. The story of ill health goes with it. As the character is leaving, so is its story. And there's no way for what was to continue to remain as is, as the character is leaving. So this is how we can start to see how self-realization or enlightenment, which is the same thing, how it's not the same thing as healing. It's not, but they're intertwined. They're absolutely intertwined because only the truth heals. Only the truth heals, and only being yourself is the only real truth. That's the only real truth, and that's how healing actually starts. And that's why I think I said in the first book is that healing is the deconstruction of the false self. Because as the false self is falling apart, its story of ill health goes with it. And that's really how, once that begins to happen, we can feel it. And that's where that knowingness comes from, the certainty. And now there's no doubt. There's no worry. There's also no looking for an outcome. And this is the single biggest thing, indicator of when we are truly in touch with who and what we really are. Is because if when we're truly in touch with who and what we really are, you're already at peace. And if you're already at peace, then what difference does it make what the outcome is? So in this very strange way, right, the healing doesn't matter. And this is the ego mind identity is like, what the fuck are you talking
Yes,
about?
that could drive a person a person with a mind like that
Yeah, that's
completely over the edge, especially the more routinized, your culture, the culture you came from was in terms
yeah.
of extreme pedigree, success,
Mm-hmm.
linear type, and my mind is actually being blown because I'm having these flashes now of just the kind of culture that I grew up in and the kind of schools that I went to. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's the antidote. Like what
Mm-hmm.
you're saying is literally the antidote to the kinds of minds that have been programmed, quite frankly, like mine was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, literally, that's exactly right. What I said is the cure, the antidote, the
Yeah.
remedy. I'm 99% sure that I did say this in Supercharged Self Healing. Uh, when the neurosurgeon came in, this was like 2 days after, whatever it was, 48 hours after surgery or 72 hours, I don't remember. Um, but he comes in and essentially, and the infectious disease doctor was there, and my partner at the time was there. And he comes in and he's like, I've been doing this kind of surgery. He's a fantastic surgeon. This was in La Jolla, California. This guy's a world-renowned neurosurgeon, literally, right? So he comes in and he says exactly what he did. He points it out and he goes, just so you know, I've been doing this surgery for 20 years or 25 years. He said, there's just absolutely no way you can recover. The damage to your spine is it's too severe. I mean, I was paralyzed before they operated. So he's like, there's no chance of walking, just so you know. But hopefully through the surgery, we got all the infection off your spine. And you're gonna be, healthy after this. Hopefully the sepsis and the infection, all that is removed. But you're gonna be paralyzed from the chest down. That's just the way it is. That's just science. That's just it. And he walks out, right? So now, what matters is not his opinion. I could give a shit what his opinion is. But what I then said, I think, is the whole key to what we're talking about. Because what I then said is, and obviously the infectious disease doctor was actually quite upset to hear that I'll always be paralyzed. My partner at the time was completely devastated about hearing that. And I turned to both of them and I said, Just so you know, I am 100% absolutely going to walk again. I guarantee it. And even if I don't, I'm at peace with everything. Now, it's those two things, Michelle. This is the key. This is the magic. It's those two things. Now, the ego mind identity cannot embody two seemingly contradictory ideas simultaneously because the ego mind identity is rooted in duality. So it's either this or it's that. It's either white or it's black. It's good or it's bad. It's positive or it's negative. This is not how things are. That is not how things are. Now, the self is everything. It could hold a million different truths simultaneously. So the idea of being at peace now while simultaneously harnessing the will in totality to put myself back together. Those two things at the same time. Only the self can do that. Now, the self can do anything. The ego mind identity can't do this. It can't. And this is where, with all the thousands and thousands of people that I've worked with and met with, one on one, in person, and all sorts of stuff, the ego mind identity cannot do what I just said. It can't do it. Now, we are not the ego mind identity, though. We are not. We are fully capable of being at peace right now because the self is always at peace while still harnessing our power of creation to bring about the a change in the screen of our consciousness, which includes our body. And it's being able to be at peace while working towards something, but coming from a foundation of peace, not fear, not desperation. That is a faulty foundation, and this is one of the main reasons why people don't heal. Because they're coming from a place of fear, doubt, worry, terror, right? That's like building a house with a completely and utterly fucked up foundation. And then you're trying to put on a really nice second floor and a third floor, and you got a nice furniture and this. I don't care how nice you make it, that house is going to come down. And so we have to start, Michelle, the key is to start from being at peace, and only the self can do that. And when you start from there, when you start from peace, wholeness, completeness, you can literally put a completely and utterly destroyed body back together, even in 100 days. I hope you're enjoying this fantastic conversation. But don't worry, there is much, much more to this conversation. So if you're not subscribed, click on that, subscribe, and there'll be more of this interview coming very soon. Until then, be well.